right. 11, I'm sorry. This one's 11. We have to support that. We have very little discretion in that. There is some discretion. But again, you're going to have to deal with the city administrator on that to get the permission to stay here beyond the 11 o'clock closing. I get it. I get it. But again, if you want. So that's where we're at. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So good. So what are you guys trying to get across to the people as far as the Occupy movement as opposed to the other Occupy movements, or in a similar way regarding this created financial crisis that we're in that is affecting all of us, including the police that we just saw. You know, we're all on the same side here. So, you know, what is it from your point of view that we're trying to get across here?
Well, and specifically, I think each Occupy is different. We're unique to the location where we are,
right?
But it's also connected to the hub, so which is in Wall Street,
right?
This community in particular, Occupy Poughkeepsie, it's really impossible. We live in an area, we're located in an area which is right next to crime. There's a heroin epidemic that happened in the past. There's a lot of gang violence. So it's unique because this is dangerous at the same time. Over there is the hub of Poughkeepsie. We're trying to, right now, focus our attention on the community. We want to send a message to the community, say, you know, we're here. We're trying to help you guys, and we realize that you are the 99% as well. They've suffered, like we have, some form of betrayal by the powers that be that has let us become complacent to the system. Me personally, my father lost his job, lost our medical benefits. I'm at a community college where I should be at a private college, but I cannot because we lost all of our funding and money. So, in essence, this movement helps the community realize that they're the 99%, that we can do things for them, that we have food and water, that we have services, and anybody in this is connected. People come in down here, they can offer services, they can say, well, you know, there's a woman who was here last night who said, I have a church I know I go to, the pastor supports this, I'll send people and food and donations here. That church gets involved. There's a assistance nearby. We go there and help out. They spread the word. People come down here, support us. You know, it's this sort of small, sort of entering the community, and as that continues to work for us, it gets bigger and bigger. Online as well, we're getting bigger and bigger online. So it's small, and again, Wall Street started with 2 people. It's now 2,000 plus people going through each day with several hundred core occupiers. So this is our goal. I mean, this has never happened in Poughkeepsie before, as far as I know. We want to send a message to the governments around here, to the corporations around here, and to the people around here that we are planning on staying here. We may move this park, depending on what the police say, but we plan on staying here. This is not going to die from our collective knowledge for quite some time. So I hope that answered your question. Quite wordy, but we want to get that point across.
No, and we want wordy. You know, that's something that you know, needs to get across. I mean, you know, what's happening economically on one level, you know, it's a created crisis. You know, that's why I kind of tap into at times like the Rothschilds and all them, because what's happening globally is a created economic crisis, and this crash has been orchestrated in order to eventually create what's called a global economic system, a global bank, a global currency, and that's why the dollar's being crashed and the Eurozone's being crashed and the whole deal, to create a global currency. So on one level, you know, it's all orchestrated for a purpose to further enslave and consolidate power. But do you also believe that it could be an opportunity for more, as it seems is happening with the Occupy movement, has spread globally. Do you think it's an opportunity for more people to awaken to their own enslavement? Because people aren't going to fight against their enslavement if they don't know they're slaves. And in a sense, we've discovered that, and I use we loosely, but, we've discovered that we have been enslaved by worthless paper, by digits on a computer screen, that dictate how much we're allowed to eat, where we can live, if we can feed our children or not. And, I think the scam is starting to be opened up. And is that kind of, in a sense, what you guys are trying to get across too, as far as raising awareness so people can take their power back? Because the illusion is that a small amount of people can control the large amount of people. We give them that power. We give it by separating and not being aware of what's truly going on. So, in a sense, that was a wordy question myself, but do you think this is also an opportunity for us to start saying, hey, something is wrong here, and it's time to take our power back and remove the illusion of power from the others?
100%, yes.
Okay.
Right now, as you mentioned, with the Occupy Wall Street movement spreading around the world, 200,000 people in Rome, they predicted. I know Madrid was the largest with about 250,000. That's not true. It's not completely checked yet, but pretty much. What's happening in other countries is they are sharing our problems with the system, with the corporations, with the government, which is that, we are not having just representation. We have been subjected to the will of the bankers and of the governments that allow this to happen. This is not truly for the people. Because if it was truly for the people, we would be participating in direct democracy more often. We would be directly electing our officials without the use of corporate money. One thing I'm personally highly against is Citizens United versus FEC ruling, which made it legal for corporations, which are now legal people, to donate unlimited amounts of funds to any political cause, campaign, or candidate they wish, even in other countries. An Asian board of directors can vote and send money to an American politician, and that's completely the antithesis of what America is supposed to be. Liberty, justice, freedom. So in order for that to happen, and in order for this awakening, as you said, to occur, people need to be informed. They just need to be completely informed. This movement has provided that, and it's still growing. I mean, it's only 1 month going. This is going to continue for quite some time. It's going to continue to next year. I have a high positive feeling about that. The primary focus for Occupy Wall Street, for Occupy Poughkeepsie, for every Occupy, is to get that message out. So what's interesting is the media has not really picked up on this. I mean, now they kind of are, but the first 2-3 weeks they haven't. It took the Brooklyn Bridge arrest to get them involved because, oh my God, there's violence, there goes my rating. But we do not need to rely on the media, the mainstream media. We have blogs, we have radio shows, podcasts, we have citizen journalism, investigative journalism by the citizens. All these have done wonders to us. We have many millions and millions of people who are following us all over the world, on Facebook, on all these social networking sites. So that kind of engagement with the community and with the people does serve some purpose, and it does warrant these protests, because if the word's not out there, we are not engaging in what we can do. We are humans. I believe humans are incredible people. We're incredible beings that can rise and achieve anything. We've been, struck down and kept stagnant by the powers that be, by the bank. You mentioned that, Cal. This is important for us, and this is a movement, and I think it's time. It's been quite a long time since we've had a transcendent movement.
Right.
It is time, and this is what we're here for, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, and it definitely seems to be growing, and it's a beautiful thing, and I hope it grows here as well. You did mention the corporations, and how the corporations have such an influence on politicians, and in a sense that's why, I forget who said this, but I always liked the term of politics, meaning many blood-sucking parasites. And when you look at the United States of America, it's no longer a nation, and it hasn't been for a long, long time. It's literally a corporate entity. It's a corporation, just like England is. It's a corporation that's owned by the international banks. I mean, you look at the Federal Reserve. I mean, the Federal Reserve is private. It's not federal. It's Federal Express. And the Federal Reserve is owned. It's made up of numerous other banks, and it's owned by, it's an entity owned by the Rothschild family, just like they own the Bank of England, the IMF, the World Bank, which these are weapons of theirs, tools of theirs to, meaning many blood-sucking parasites. And, when you look at the United States of America, it's no longer a nation, and it hasn't been for a long, long time. It's literally a corporate entity. It's a corporation, just like England is. It's a corporation that's owned by the international banks. I mean, you look at the Federal Reserve. I mean, the Federal Reserve is private. It's not federal. It's as federal as Federal Express. And the Federal Reserve is owned. It's made up of numerous other banks, and it's owned by, it's an entity owned by the Rothschild family, just like they own the Bank of England, the IMF, the World Bank, which these are weapons of theirs, tools of theirs to, state your name?
Norm?
All right, Norm. Now, are you a part of the Occupy movement in Poughkeepsie right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually one of the core members that kind of organized it's been 3 weeks in advance of websites, our Facebook, our Gmail, and then Saturday came and we have protests now. Everybody's involved.
Okay. All right, good. What is it that, I know from my point of view, what I always try to get across with things like this, but, what is it from your point of view that Occupy Poughkeepsie is trying to get across locally regarding what's going on globally?
Oh, okay.
Economically,
well, the whole Occupy movement is kind of a hodgepodge of, so how does Occupy Poughkeepsie look? Yeah, okay. I think Occupy Poughkeepsie really represents the Occupy movement as a whole, which is just a hodgepodge of individual dilemmas, the economic system, the teaching system, the American system in general, as well as we're seeing in Italy and London, the nation systems all around the world. So what this is, for me, from my point of view, because remember everyone has their own individual point of view of what Occupy is, this is for people who can't go to Wall Street, who do live in the area, who is financial burden, to have this same type of conversation and dialogue right here in the Hudson Valley. This is the central hub for it. And then, as we find out from a declaration from Occupy Wall Street, by July, hopefully we want to become recognized as a legitimate branch of the Occupy movement and be able to send representatives to Philadelphia with all the other legitimate Occupy branches and find out collectively as a whole movement what our demands are, what kind of plans, what ideas we have as a whole on how to repair these systems, because individually, they're failing everyone. That's why we're having such a huge uprising right now.
Do you think that, because from my point of view, my own point of view, do you think that the system is failing? It was designed to fail, in a way. Do you think that it's more of a systematic collapse, not just economically, but, just like our educational systems, which are truly indoctrination systems, regarding everything, everything that's happening. The crash, from what I've witnessed throughout the years, has occurred before. Great Depression and the whole deal was, admitted to be created by the same force that's creating it now, the same international banking cartel. And do you think that, on one point, it is happening to create a global bank, a global economic system, and a global currency type situation? But on the same time, I see an awakening happening, and I've been seeing it, for the past few years, growing in speed. And with the awakening, people are starting to see beyond their own enslavement through worthless paper and digits on a computer screen, and how they're being told what to believe through indoctrination centers like schools and different even specific religious ideologies and all this kind of stuff. I don't know your points of view on all that kind of stuff, but this is a great opportunity. It seems that people are finally waking up beyond their brainwashing, beyond their conditioning, beyond their indoctrination, and it's spreading from there. So sorry about that long-winded...
No, I've been thinking of response to your entire time. Yes, I think this was inevitable.
Okay.
I don't know if it was designed to fail, but I think it was inevitable. I know from my personal point of view, the people I've seen, it just seems we were grown up to accept this sort of box of accepted beliefs of right, wrong. You know, this type of this theory is right, this one is wrong. Subversively debatable, but still, like, people, it was inevitable that people would just try to think outside of the box. And now this is where you're happening. One person started doing it. I mean, we've all had this kind of passive-aggressive ideology to what we're being, like, told and fed, and we don't want to take it. So Occupy Wall Street was just a spark that everybody needed to just jump outside of the box, break it, and say, you know what, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm going to assemble, I'm going to discuss, and I'm just going to bring down that whole ideology that had me enslaved in type of thinking for my entire life.
Right, precisely, and you know,
You're right. It's an awakening. It's just, we all just, bam, just like that. But if it's awakening, we have a lot of work to do to make sure we don't wake from this kicking and screaming and wake up with a smile on our face instead.
Oh, absolutely, and there's so much work to do, and there's so much longer we need to go. And that's why also, my next point here, I think it's also important for the people involved in the Occupy movement, especially you know, ones that are part of the core occupiers within each movement, to be careful too, to be very careful of all the different forces trying to infiltrate the movement. You know, different political parties, different NGOs, different you know, other non-and governmental systems trying to infiltrate the movements, because all movements throughout history have been infiltrated and torn apart from within. And I personally think it's very important for all the people involved in Occupy Wall Street to be very, very careful from all the different forces that are trying to get involved. Some are good, and some are there for specific nefarious reasons. So what's your word on that?
Completely 200% agree. And I don't know if you can see by my disposition, but this is like, I don't like the word stress, but it's a weight on our shoulders every single day, especially for the core members of us who, like, want to make sure that we're not getting to, like, that political agendas aren't being expressed and, like, dominating the discussion.
Right.
That, like, that people cannot end up painting us as one side of the political spectrum. Thoughts like that, ideologies like that, it becomes, how do you, I don't want to stop it because I don't want to take an authoritative role, but how do you, you know, calm that down without blocking people's opinions and their say? Because everyone has a voice here, and by having a voice, that means you hold influence. So we just kind of, me and my core members, we just kind of, every time we have our mingling, every time we have our open forum, we love to express that everyone has their own opinion. Try to stay away from any political titles, from any titles in general, because that will immediately destroy us. If anyone can paint us in a certain light, that immediately destroys this whole movement, in our opinion.
And they're all illusions to begin with. You know, I mean, there's so many that still believe we live in a two-party system when, you know, there's two sides of the same coin of manipulation and corruption. You know, and I think it's brilliant to understand that we're all individually unique, and we have our own unique perspectives on what's going on, but at the same time, we're all collectively one. We're all collectively one beautiful force. And once we realize that and break through all the different illusions that we allow us to separate us with, you know, and you know, finally grasp our true power, you know, not the power of the 1%. You know, the power of the 1%, the only reason they have that illusion of power is because we give it to them. You know, we give it to them by separating us from us, divide and conquer. You know, it's divide and conquer. And if we can finally, and I use we loosely, but all of us, you know, wake up beyond these illusions and understand we're the power, not them. You know, if we were to finally wake up and say no, what could they do about it? Nothing. And I think that's the point of, you know, doing things like what you guys are doing, you know, raising awareness and letting people understand that, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah, we feel the same way, and that's just another dilemma. Like, a lot of people are just stuck into this way of thinking. You know, they see division, they see color, they see race. That's just illusionary division. You know, it doesn't really exist.
Right.
And this is an awakening, and we hope through this dialogue that we are going to make a very significant change. That's why we are taking the time to realize that it's going to take months in advance of dialogue to to get our ideology, to get our demands, to get off focus. That when we go to Philadelphia, and then from July to October that the representatives will be discussing, we will be able to have a new set plan of how we're going to break these ideological chains that bound us to this little box.
Right. Open that box.
Yeah,
Open that box up.
We are, especially the core members all around these branches. You already see like we're trying to break as far as possible, but
right.
You know, it's not everybody. It's not everybody, and we're trying to do that for everybody.
Right.
So that's basically, for me at least, this is what a main point of Occupy movement is about. You know, through discussion and debate, and maybe through other people's perspectives and lights on things, that maybe people can stop seeing these divisions.
Yeah.
We don't like to use names here, for example, on the General Assembly. We don't. We brother, sister, just whatever. You know, because any sort of the only word that comes to mind, significance to a name, to a title, just like a no for us.
Right. Right.
We just don't like it at all.
And once you do that, you tend to, I guess, bound yourselves off underneath a specific label, and you know, and that's what we're fighting against. You know,
what the whole awakening
right,
is for.
Right. And I think it's beautiful. On another note, I see a lot of, you know, I think it's very important for people to also realize that we got to remain peaceful. You know, we got to remain peaceful, aware, because there's a lot of violence being incited by the police departments that I've seen in New York City anyway. You know, I've seen a woman get punched square in the face. I saw, you know, the two women getting sprayed with mace. I saw people being beat, and you know, a lot of the NYPD departments have been bought out by the major banks themselves. But a lot of the police officers don't realize is that they're like us. They're getting screwed just as much as we are. And you know, it kind of goes back to why they were changed from police or peace officers to police officers. You know, police comes from policy, you know, and they're there to push policy. And you know, I think it'll really switch once more of the police wake up to what's happening. And but I just think it's so important to tell all the Occupy movement to please remain peaceful, because a lot of times they incite violence for the purpose of being able to arrest and being able to instill martial law in a police state.
Yeah, we have the general consensus around here is that police are kind of indoctrinated to that way of thinking. You know, they're protecting policy, they're pushing law, therefore law is superior to everything else.
Right.
And what is that really besides, you know, someone above you telling you, you know, what's right and wrong and you accepting it? That's exactly what this whole movement is rebelling against.
Right.
So you're going to have that equal force that's going to try to stop you as you rise up, and you're so right. Peaceful. Just be peaceful. I mean, we've had run-ins with the police here. I would say the majority seem to be on our side. We've gotten tickets and threatened to be arrested, but when they speak to us on one-on-one, you know, you ask them, they tend to be like, you know, I have to keep my opinion to myself while I'm in this uniform.
Right.
That's the thing. They're in the uniform. A lot of them, I would say, I mean, this may be an ignorant statement, but I would say a lot of them are just indoctrinated to that way of thinking. But there are those that just have to do it because they're obligated by their badge. So stay peaceful. That would do it. Try to work within the laws, but make that line that you won't cross when you have to.
Right.
When you have to, make that line you won't cross.
Yeah, and I, from my own point of view, you know, they are behind the badge, but at the same time, we always have choice.
Yeah,
we always have choice.
I agree with that too. You know, like, weren't the Nazis saying the exact same thing?
Precisely.
But, you know, we're not here to just pick point and blame.
Right.
We're just here to change the whole system. So, you gotta do what you gotta do, then you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep, and, you know, I just think it's beautiful. I do see more and more waking up to what's happening. And, you know, I said a quote a few years ago that the sane will always be looked at as insane in an insane world. And, you know, it's kind of refreshing, you know, even for me to see, you know, so many people finally opening their minds and hearts and eyes to what is really going on in this world.
Laws, but make that line that you won't cross when you have to.
Right.
When you have to, make that line you won't cross.
Yeah, and I, from my own point of view, you know, they are behind the badge, but at the same time, we always have choice. Yeah, we always have choice.
I agree with that too. You know, like, weren't the Nazis saying the exact same thing?
Precisely.
But, you know, we're not here to just pick, point, and blame.
Right.
We're just here to change the whole system. So you gotta do what you gotta do, then you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep. Yep. And you know, I just think it's beautiful. I do see more and more waking up to what's happening. And you know, I said a quote a few years ago that the sane will always be looked at as insane in an insane world. And you know, it's kind of refreshing, you know, even for me to see, you know, so many people finally opening their minds and hearts and eyes to what is really going on in this world. To what is really going on in this world.